Stay tuned until the end of the episode. I'll help you break down this workout and set expectations as to how far into it you can get or how fast you can go.
TTT THROWDOWN!
On this week's Throwdown, AMRAP Andy demos the workout.
We've got SkiErg, double unders, and squat cleans.
We release these workouts right here on our YouTube channel at 1 Eastern Time.
PM. 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Our first training cycle for the 2022 competitive CrossFit season just started. For more information and to join, head to trainingthinktank.com.
Mia, what's the workout?
This week's workout is, for total time, 500 meter ski for the guys, 425 meters for the girls, 75 double unders, 15 squat cleans at 135 for the guys, 95 for the girls, 500 425 meter ski, 75 double unders, 12 squat cleans at 185 or 125, ski again, double under again, 9 squat cleans at 225 and 155, ski, double under, ends with 6 squat cleans at 275 and 185 with a 25-minute time cap.
Go ahead and catch your breath, Mia. If you want to register on the leaderboard, click the description or look in the description down below and click there. You also have movement standards and a warm-up for this workout.
This week's demo athlete is Andy. Andy's 23 years old. He has climbed out of the intermediate category as an athlete, I'd say, and is RX athlete, clawed out.
Just getting out of there.
He can do all the skills. He's pretty strong. He's still developing his capacity, and he desires to be a games athlete in the future.
Hey, also, we are in the middle of a cycle in our online training program, The Design. If you want to check that out, go to www.trainingthinktank.com/DSGN.
Let's see what Andy's got.
3, 2, 1, 0.
And we have begun.
Andy, is this his first demo?
No, he did the 30 rounds.
Oh, yeah.
I was his judge. That was fun.
This is 2 rough ones
I
for
know,
him.
he really has.
He came after me for you calling him out about crawling in the background of somebody else's throwdown as well.
Yeah. But
I was
to be
like,
fair,
I didn't say it.
Nice.
he was crawling. So 500 meter SkiErg to start. I mean, the best in the world are still going to go fast because they're just going fast and everything. But I think for the majority of us, it doesn't really, there's no point in going hard on the SkiErg. It's more about moving quickly through the double unders and the squat cleans.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is like maximum sustainable pace would be
Yes.
like a cue, something that you know you can go and then transition right to your rope, get started, and get into the double unders without a transition. If you have to like push yourself here and then take a slow transition, pick the rope up and chill for 5 or 10 seconds, you're just better off going a little bit slower on the SkiErg and not wasting effort.
Yeah, just think about per 500 how much more effort it is to hold a 5-second faster split and how quickly you can lose those 5 seconds if you're digging yourself a little bit too deep with it.
It's much easier to spill over on the ski than, like, let's say double unders or even the squat clean. You can pull back a little bit and kind of stay on that threshold, where the ski, if you go too fast, you're blown up for everything else, and then it's just an extremely slow workout.
Yeah, the one thing about the SkiErg is I think the natural cadence is a little bit faster than the rower. Same machine in terms of, I think, like the fan wheel and all that stuff, but I think for most people they're going to be cycling this a little quicker. I know this is this the first time we put a SkiErg in an actual,
Yeah, it is.
in a throwdown?
Oh,
So-
snap! Let's go!
So as a qualifier style movement, you're probably going to have less exposure. It's a little bit of a faster cycle rate, but same concept that you want to use your whole body to generate the stroke.
Yeah, technique does matter here. I see people all the time that either just pull with their arms or don't use their arms and try to like squat down, and that both ways can be really slow, or there's too much local fatigue in your arms if you're just pulling with your arms.
All right, so 159 pace to finish his first 500. We'll see how sustainable that is, and then about a 5-second transition, I'd say.
That was pretty good. It was basically walk
Yeah.
over and pick it up.
Yeah, those little changes in urgency are really only things you can work on when you get to like an individual games level, because if this is a 20-minute workout for people, to be able to move with urgency for 20 straight minutes is a skill that requires a lot of capacity.
So 75 double unders is really not a lot for most people, but for me, it would be something that I'm thinking about. I can take advantage of the squat cleans, but not the double unders. So I may even think about doing like 50-25 or 25-25-25, and then try to go a little bit faster cadence on the squat cleans. So something to think about for those that aren't great at them.
Yeah, it's kind of the concept you talk about separation value is if you take a 3 or 4 second break or two 2-second breaks in your double unders, but that allows you to cycle your 15 with half a second rep between each lift a little faster, you actually save more time by taking the breaks in the overall workout.
Yeah, basically the SkiErg and the double unders, you're not going to win on it, but you could lose on it if you.
Yeah.
This is squat cleans. This is where the money is made.
Yeah, that combination too of just breathing hard and jumping with squatting is, for me, quite a challenge.
Very
This is
hard.
my least favorite
This is
thing.
pretty similar to that open workout.
19.2,
Yeah.
16.2.
But you don't have the bottleneck of the toes to bar skill, even though it is the same movement pattern. You're not going to find, you're not going to do singles on SkiErg and break down there. So it
maybe
might
more painful.
That's what I was going to say. It might make it so that you can make the workout hurt a little bit more.
Yeah, your respiration rate may actually be higher here, unless you're like really holding your breath on toes to bar or something like that. And you're getting back to the squat cleans maybe faster if you're really bad at toes to bar versus the SkiErg. So those are all things to think about. And he's moving relatively well here for the squat cleans. One thing that you may want to think about is trying to bank some time in the earlier bars. If you know, let's say for him, that 275 bar is super heavy. We'll see, he's pretty strong, but like me, I haven't squat cleaned 275 in a long time. I'm thinking I need to get there and give myself time because those will take longer.
Yeah, he's just very rhythmic here. If you watch like a games team athlete or games athlete in a qualifier, this is where they're going to be pushing the pace. They're going to be like dropping down to the bar and picking it up, or potentially even touch and going these sets. That's where you have to get to as an aspiring athlete, but right now I think that smooth rhythmic pace is going to set him up well to finish when this gets to a big percentage of his 1RM.
Do you know what his 1RM clean is?
I think he's hit 335. I know I've watched a clean and jerk of him hitting 315. So he's definitely got the strength to compete at the highest level. It's the capacity right now that he's in the building phase of.
Yeah.
He's young and new to the sport.
Very young,
right?
yeah.
Good transition back to the SkiErg. I think, Max, you have his pace right there. What was his SkiErg pace on this one?
This was 202 average.
Yeah, so a little bit slower, but I mean within, what, 3 or 4 seconds?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that I would consider that sustainable. If you say you're only 2 seconds off your initial pace or 3 seconds off your initial pace, you're not really like falling off. It's kind of just you did your first one fresh. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, I do think, though, if you want to set targets there. So maybe it's, hey, I want to try to stay within, maybe it is that 2 or 3 second mark, but I don't want to extend it past 5 seconds or 6 seconds, whatever it may be for you. A tendency, though, for people is to get kind of, I don't want to say soft, but like almost like I need to relax in the middle rounds, and then they're 10 or 15 or 20 seconds slower, and that's where you can lose a lot of time against the field.
Yeah, this is another portion of the workout where quote-unquote banking time might actually be a good thought, because after you squat clean 9 reps at 225, what is the female conversion that we have it as?
155.
155.
155, Max.
So doing 9 reps of that really fast, it's going to be unlikely that you're going to get onto the SkiErg, push the pace at what you opened with, and then move into an even heavier barbell.
Yep.
So there might have to be just some planning for negative or positive splits on this type of a workout.
Yeah, it really, some of this is going to be based on feel depending on how good you are at the SkiErg, but having game plans going into it, especially with that many opportunities on the SkiErg, will matter a lot. And then obviously, again, for someone like me, I'm thinking even more of like the double unders because I have a ton of exposure to the ski. So it really just kind of comes down to where your bottleneck or your limitation is going to be.
Where would your bottleneck be?
The double unders, as sad as that is. Actually, it'd probably be the squat cleans towards
Brandon
towards the
doesn't
end.
have bottlenecks.
One thing to point out, you'll notice that his weight has been changed. Your judge can change your weights, and I would take advantage of that. Obviously, you're wasting time if you're changing your own weights here.
Transition there is pretty good. He was about 8 seconds from finishing the last SkiErg to picking up and getting started. I don't know if you did that really fast. It might be like 4. But those are the details. I know it seems irrelevant sometimes when we're talking about, watching Noah do or Travis do a workout, how fast they're moving through everything. But those little details, if you did, 4 second faster transition here for 4 different transitions, that's another 16 seconds in a workout. It ends up actually being one of the differentiators between being really good and being one of the best of the best.
And that's something where you could look at it as I'm going to transition faster and I'm going to do 40 reps and take a break. And that's still probably going to give you more time. Maybe not on double unders if you're going unbroken like he is, but in other movements, transitioning straight into the first rep quickly and then taking your break afterwards.
Yeah, sometimes setting intentions in your training, like you have an opportunity here to practice competing, but in your training, in your other 4 days of the week, you could pick a specific workout and say, hey, today I'm going to actually focus on making my transitions as fast as possible, even if that means I'm going to get a slower overall workout, where you're actually practicing the skills that allow you to be a better racer in the sport.
I'm interested to see how the Open and quarterfinals come out this year with the markings on the ground, because that was a big change last year.
Yeah.
Like a critique I would give here would be bring your rope closer so that you don't have to walk as far, but that might not even be an option.
Yeah, I think
that may
the-
be a thing of the past.
The trend may be to have the markings on the ground, which I actually think is fair because some
I
people
agree.
don't have the same setups. Like
Yeah.
before, we would pull the rowers underneath the rig for something that was like row and tow to bar. Now with those standards, everyone's on the same playing field, which I think is great.
What do you think about this cycle rate Andy has at this barbell?
I actually think he's doing a really good job. I know that, again, you said he is strong, but his capacity maybe is lacking compared to where he wants to be. He's obviously getting much better. I'm over the last couple months watching him. But he also can't blow up here and then, let's say, ski a 220 and then come back to the barbell and be slow again. So I think that kind of methodical approach where he's taking a step, now he takes a longer break.
Yeah.
But the dual rep, take a step back, come back into it, as long as you can keep that cyclical, I think that's okay for where he's at.
Yeah, he's somewhere between like 6 and 10 seconds between reps here, which I think is that's probably a cadence that you'd hold. If this is 60 or less percentage of his 1RM, he'd probably want to be cycling this at a little bit of a faster cadence and using this cadence for something like the next barbell jump.
Yeah.
But you obviously have to weigh that into consideration. If you don't have the capacity yet to push the pace on something like this, you do 9 quick reps, you blow up, you go into the next SkiErg, and you just basically bleed time throughout the rest of the workout. So I think he's making the safe choice here, but as we're watching it, I want to give some cues for people that maybe have a little bit more capacity as to where you can go after his time and beat it.
Yeah, and I mean, look,
Everyone else to beat it. Sorry, Andy.
the volume is pretty high. I mean, he did 15 and then he went right into 12 at 185. I mean, that's more than most people are practicing. So keep that in mind. Like you could blow up easily here. The other thing I just point out is, even though that he has his SkiErg pace kind of set, you'll notice that when he got there, he had a couple really small pulls. So this is nitpicking Andy, but one of the things that I would tell him is, hey, look, even if you're going to go, let's say, a 202 pace on this round, get there as quickly as possible and then settle in, because we've noticed that the slowest part of your transition is actually when you start pulling on the rope or pulling on the handle for a row, whatever it may be,
And
you can
it's
lose a lot of
like
time.
exaggerated on the SkiErg. Like it
Yeah.
starts really slow unless you really throw your chest into it or throw your legs into it.
Yeah, I mean, his pace over the course of this 500 was a 208 versus his 202. He could be holding the exact same pace right now. I mean, you guys might be able to see it on your screen, but we don't. The pace that he's holding on this could be the same. If the initial starting pulls were that much slower, he could have lost the 6 seconds
Right.
literally just right there.
Right.
And again, like Max iterated earlier, those little things do matter. And especially when you talk about something like the Open or a large qualifier, like let's say Wodapalooza that's coming up, where there are thousands of people on the leaderboard, because now every second does matter. Whereas like maybe, yeah, with our throwdown, we have a couple hundred people and it's not as big of a deal. The more people in the pot, the more you have to really think about those transitions.
Yeah, you got to look at it on a percentage basis. If you lose by one person on a throwdown leaderboard in the Open, that's losing by 10,000 people. Like that's,
Right.
I mean, that's the magnitude of difference in terms of the competition.
You just made me feel really sad.
You take 10, that's 10,000.
It's not so fast.
It's not that great of a correlation. Somebody's going to go and do the math and be like, you're an idiot, Max.
One of the things that Max brought up earlier is the stroke rate. So like on the rower, maybe he's holding a 26 to 28 to hold like, let's say 2 minutes or 155. Here he's probably holding like what it looks like 42 to 45 strokes per minute. So it definitely does change the actual cadence. And one of the things I've noticed for me is playing around with the way that I'm breathing, especially as I get out of breath. Say, let's go from the squat cleans to the SkiErg. Make sure that I'm trying to find a cadence. Let's say it's 42 strokes per minute. That's allowing me to breathe in the same time each rep or each pull that I'm doing. So something to think about.
All right, so back to Andy. So he just transitioned from the ski to the dubs. The transition was okay. You could tell it was a little bit slower, just a little bit, but then he started and he missed his second rep. That is basically like taking a long transition. So sometimes if you get into this and you feel like, hey, I know I'm blown up, when it comes to a high skill like this, sometimes taking the longer rest actually saves you because you just miss less with double unders. It might be different than something like air squats or wall balls where you're probably not going to fail a rep if you start to get super fatigued.
I do think he did a great job of, he tripped, but then he like reset the rope and immediately got back into it, which is something that I see athletes kind of fall into. Oh, I tripped, so I get to rest type thing. But
another tiny little nitpicky detail,
Yep.
setting the rope down like that. You saw it, and Chris gave you a little freeze frame on it, it was like spiraled up like a snake. That means when he transitions to it in his next round, it's going to take 1 or 2 seconds just to get it back open. So be very deliberate with how you put your rope down in your throwdowns or any workout really where you're trying to go fast.
For those that did 19.2 or 16.2, they may remember that this was the barbell that really was the largest separator in the workout. It was still, I believe it was 9 reps, maybe 11 reps at 225, 155. And those that got through this usually had much more time for the 75, or I believe it was, 175 barbell for the females. So being diligent here, you can see he's taking a little bit longer breaks. Try to get back to the barbell, really keep chipping away so give yourself some time for that last
You
bar.
know who didn't make it through the 225 barbell?
Who's that?
Me. That was the barbell that chewed my life a while.
That one was hard.
Something I would cue Andy, not necessarily to change in this workout, but to work on from here is his setup for a 225 bar looks exactly the same as the 135. Not saying there's anything wrong with how he's setting up now, but if he can figure out how to set up quicker at the lighter bars because he is so strong, that like, 'cause he spends like 5 to 6 seconds setting his hands and then setting his back, and that just doesn't need to happen as slowly on the lighter barbells.
Yeah, it also could be, so this is something that Noah has now that we're potentially trying to consider, can we unwind, is getting both hands on the bar at the same time instead of thinking of it as kind of like a 1-2 motion, just going straight down. That saves a lot of time when you're barbell cycling at lighter weights.
Right.
At this pace, it might not really make that much of a difference, but as you start to develop those little habits you start to develop in your early days, start to get magnified.
Yeah, one of the things I actually love to do is watch others that are really good in the sport and see how they do it, and then practice those. You know, Frazier or like Travis does a really good job a lot of times, sometimes with bad form, but he'll bend over and grab it with both hands and just kind of rip it off the ground, those lighter loads. But it becomes almost like a cyclical movement that's super fast for him. So 135 is like just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 right away, as opposed to like really setting up. So little things like that can definitely help you.
Technically, he still looks really good. His upper back is giving a little bit under the weight, but nothing too crazy.
I'm not going to nitpick technique.
There's an ant on the table. Sorry.
So the rhythm he's held in terms of his rest breaks between those were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Did his judge miscount? I feel like Kyle was ready to go and Andy
One
has
more.
still got another
Maybe
one?
he's
Or
he's
he's
on
going
the
to reset
SkiErg,
the
yeah.
monitor. Got it.
Yeah, so I think this is his last one. I mean, all of his reps look pretty good. Those actually, it makes me think that he could probably speed up the cadence a little bit, but I also know he's, in his mind, he's thinking, I still have another 500 meters plus 6 squat cleans.
I do think also Andy is, like we said, young and he's developed really quickly, so he probably doesn't know his capacity as well on like the heavier barbells. Like he's probably thinking of the 275 as something that's going to bottleneck him, and you'll see when he gets there that he still had a lot in the tank.
Yeah,
And that's just a learning experience, and
Yeah.
you know, grows as you grow as an athlete.
Yeah, and it also grows as you grow as an aging athlete because you realize that you can't do things as well as you used to do.
Both are true.
Yeah, he's getting better so fast that when he comes back to a new skill, it's so well developed. I don't have that.
So you can see it.
I think Max is just having a woe is me moment.
You can see his pace here. It's at 205. He started at 205, dropped to 209. Now he's at 203. So he's kind of just fluctuating back and forth, trying to find a comfortable cadence.
Yeah, and you could see, so he's at 205 while we're watching this, but his finishing pace for this 500 is going to be at 209, which just illustrates our point earlier that getting it up to pace is important for actually finishing in that amount of time. People, when they say, okay, I'm going to row or SkiErg at 205 here, and then they accelerate really slowly for 10 seconds, their rounds end up being 210 or 211.
Yeah.
So you need to factor that in when you're strategizing and trying to project, can you beat the time cap, or how much are you going to beat this by?
Also, the same is true with cals. So if it's 25 cals per round, you can say, I'm going to hold 1,400, but if you start at 700 and take 15 seconds to get to 14, you're losing a ton of time compared to someone that's holding 14 the entire time.
Yeah, your average pace might come out to a 1,200 or something like that.
And then it's almost wasted energy getting up to 1,400.
He told me that he was disciplined with getting to his paces because he knew we were going to be talking about him to do it. Sometimes this stupid little camera can bring the best out of you.
That is true. It does. It makes it hurt a lot more too because you're going harder.
Yeah, you're like, I know they're watching.
The intensity is really high when you're a throwdown demo.
All right, so he finishes his 500 meters. This is where I'd say try to push the pace of the double unders, and then just, again, if you need to take breaks, take it in between the heaviest bar.
So see that setup, got to step on it, and then get going. How much longer that took than if you just lay it down in a nice, what is that, an oval, a rainbow?
All right, let's just call it a rainbow. Yeah, that's perfect.
Rainbow your rope.
Rainbow your rope, I like it.
So that was over 15 seconds of a transition, which again, I mean, those are the little things that he will continue to get better at, but something to think about for you guys at home to set down the rope and transition quickly.
Yeah, I mean, even for Andy, that's free time. So if you're doing a workout like this, again, speeding up your reps between your squat cleans is going to make the workout feel a lot worse. Setting your rope down properly so you can pick it up and keep the transition is not really going to take energy necessarily. It just takes remembering and having the discipline to put it down the right way every time versus dropping it like that. I mean, he's not coming back to it, so on the last one, it doesn't matter.
Now you can throw it.
Yeah, chuck it across the room.
Unless your judge is like 74.
Yeah. So he finished the double unders at 18 minutes and 50 seconds. And we'll see how long this transition is. Of course, this is the heaviest, so you're going to have to take a little bit longer break. But this is where you really, I mean, if you're looking at the clock and saying, where do I need to be or what are my goals per rep?
Something I worked on, I say that loosely because it's not, really doesn't take any effort, but tried to get used to last season was leaving my belt on loosely in a situation like this, because he did lose a lot of time putting it on again. So if, I mean, he's only skiing and doing double unders. If you can just loosen your belt and just let it not bother you and keep it on, that's going to save time as well.
So, I mean, he just moved that bar pretty well. There's still a lot of speed on it. I think now at this bar, at this weight threshold for people, it really is about when you believe you can hit the bar again, and a lot of that should be dictated by how fast it's moving. When they start to slow down and get grindy, that's your first indication that you might want to extend your rest. When you're moving them like that, even if it feels hard, a lot of times you can go faster than you think, because he's not having any trouble standing that up right there.
Looks so good.
Yeah, both looked really good. They were basically 35 seconds between both those reps. So between the double unders to his first and then from his first to his second. So we'll see how long this one is.
Yeah, generally speaking, getting into these heavy weights, it seems like when the elites are doing these types of workouts, when they are approaching their first rep, they'll take a little bit of a longer transition to kind of get themselves settled, chalk up, tighten their belts, do whatever. But then once they get into their work, they're actually going at a faster rep cadence than that first break.
So about 30 seconds for that one. That seems like where he's going to stay. I mean, that's still really good for this barbell, but watching him, I think that he could probably pick up 10 or 15 seconds per rep.
Yeah, I mean, I would be confident to say that if I did this as a repeat and we're coaching him, I would say go on a 20-second clock when you get to the end. And think about that. There's 5 transitions on that. If you cut 10 seconds off of each one, you're almost saving an entire minute on the workout just in these 6 reps right here. So that's what I was talking about earlier. It's like pushing or you said as well, pushing the pace on the SkiErg in this workout specifically might not really matter if you can go through this last barbell or the last 2 barbells faster.
So he has 2 more reps here, yes?
Yes.
He's doing a pretty good job. Looks like another 30 seconds or so in between.
Yeah, you're in the background.
I'm creeping.
Yeah.
I was trying to gather intel for this.
So again, about 30 seconds, maybe a little bit more. I mean, he's doing a pretty good job staying on that clock, but again, I think that he could probably move this a little bit faster.
Well, based on his finish time, I think he's going to do this last one on a faster clock than the previous ones. Let's see.
One more rep, Andy.
You can do it.
Yeah, much faster. That was about 12 seconds, and then he's right back on the barbell here.
Yeah, and it's still not really that much of a grind, so very strong man.
Great job.
Thank you for demoing and watching.
That's way different than I thought it was going to be.
How was it?
So hard. I'm glad I went out conservative.
Which barbell was the hardest?
185.
185?
Yeah.
Just because you can push the intensity?
Just a slide enough to go fast.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still didn't go very fast.
It was good.
But
How was the pace on the SkiErg?
I should have been faster. but this is where I'm at.
All right, so let's talk strategy. First movement is the SkiErg. And if we're breaking the SkiErg down, I put some ranges here from what I would think an elite athlete would hold until what I think an intermediate athlete would hold. So you have a little bit of a range here. I think 150 would be about as fast as you would see an elite male athlete ski on these 500-meter SkiErgs, and a 2-minute pace for females. And then on the intermediate side, I think that a lower end target for yourself would be 2 minutes and 15 seconds per 500 pace or 2:30. I do know that females that are smaller in stature and weight in this type of a format could be even slower than that, but I'm gonna say challenge yourself to hold your bottom end range if you're an intermediate athlete to that 2:15 or 2:30 range. So if we look at having 4 of those in the course of the workout, we're talking about 7 minutes and 20 seconds to 9 minutes that's accounted for just in the SkiErg for males, and 8 to 10 minutes for females. So you know a huge portion of your time is gonna get eaten up on that movement just by itself. For the double unders, I think for most people, if your skill level in double unders is okay, it's gonna be close to the same amount of time per set. It's gonna be more about the transitions and eliminating misses as you get fatigued. If you do 75 double unders unbroken, it's about 40 seconds, which means you're spending about 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the double unders. If you put 2 10-second breaks in there, so let's say you did 25, rest 10 seconds, 25, rest 10 seconds, 25, that would take you about a minute, which is a 4-minute total time. So you'd give about 1 minute and 20 up on the double unders if you held a pace like that. I tell you all of that to tell you that you know that about on the slow end for females, 14 minutes is gonna be accounted for in the ski and double unders. And you know for the males, on the fast end, 720 and 240 is 11 minutes that would be accounted for just in the ski double under portion. That means in the remaining time to the time cap, up to 24 minutes, you need to be able to execute all of these cleans under fatigue. Now, the 6 cleans at 275 and Mia, give me that weight. 275, 185, thank you. The 6 cleans at 275, 185 could be potentially above your 1 rep max. If that's the case, then you're not really striving to get there. You're gonna know just intuitively where can I finish and where is essentially my tie break time that I'm racing towards. So it's gonna be a different type of approach if you're an intermediate athlete that doesn't have a clean. So what I put here is if you're an intermediate or RX athlete, I'd kind of put you in 2 buckets. The first is if your clean is above 300 or 200-ish. I put the ish there, I think it's important. There are probably some athletes that have a 1 rep max clean that's 5 pounds above this top bar, but have great capacity and great double unders and can actually finish the workout. And there's some that are probably way stronger than this that don't have the capacity that can't finish the workout. So these are just guidelines. But if you are above that, then you're gonna move slower than maybe the elites that you would see. So slower than these 150 paces, 2-minute paces, and slower than unbroken every round. But it's gonna be highly dependent upon what your skill level is and what your fitness level is. So you just know that you have Andy as a marker for an RX athlete who's relatively strong. He's finishing a couple minutes before the time cap. If you're an elite athlete, you obviously can go a lot faster than that. So I would say maybe a target would be less than 1 minute for each one of these. So you're increasing weight as you go. The 15 to finish under a minute, you have to be going on about the 3 or 4 seconds to finish that. And the 6s, you need to be going on about the 10 seconds to finish under a minute. But I think those are relatively reasonable targets for somebody that's striving to be at a semifinal or above level. Then for the intermediate, I know I went a little bit off there. I went intermediate or RX above 300, then I went elite. Now we're gonna circle back to intermediate or RX if you are less than a 300 or 200-ish clean, then you need to figure out where you're gonna get capped and where you're gonna get capped and where you're not gonna be able to work anymore. So let's just say, for example, you can get to that 3rd barbell, but that weight is your 1 rep max or above your 1 rep max and you can't finish. That means that your responsibility in this workout is to figure out how fast can you go on the first 2 skis and double under rounds and get through here for time. And then once you finish, that's basically where you're gonna get capped, and that's your tie break time. So different ways to approach it for different athletic levels. Hopefully that gives you some context and some awareness of what paces you can hold and how you can kind of strategize ahead of this workout. Good luck, crush it. I'll see you next week.
It's a wrap, you know what I'm saying? Your boy Project Pata in this thing, man. Hey, look, man, thank y'all for watching Training Think Tank's YouTube channel. Y'all hit that motherfucking subscribe button, you know what I'm saying? So y'all go ahead, man. Thank y'all for watching the channel, you know what I'm saying? Hit that motherfucking subscribe button. Let it be known, what it be known, what it be known, you know what I'm saying? Pata.